Hey out there, this is December 30th, 2016. It's a Friday here in Northern California, where it's about almost 7 minutes past 10 in the morning. And today I wanted to talk about a bunch of stuff as usual. But, first I just wanted to say that, God help us all, and that includes me. I don't want anyone to think I'm condescending. I think anybody that's listened to me before knows basically the kind of person I am, and I'm trying to be all that I can be. And that, to me, is the best advice I can give. That's the best instruction. That's the best way I can edify others, and thereby edifying myself. So I don't want to sound patronizing or judgmental or condemning ever in my speech. Nevertheless, having said that, I think sometimes it becomes almost inevitable. But I do want to preface the things that I say with the acknowledgement that I too am a sinner and in need of salvation. And that's why I believe the teachings in the Bible are so fundamental, so foundational to everybody's experience of enrichment and true wealth of knowledge. It's a very good treasure trove of wisdom to have at your disposal, to be able to tap into a passage that you've read in the Bible and to say, you know what, this is truth. This is pure truth, unadulterated truth. This is God trying to reveal himself to us, and that we are to reach up and try to be like him. We are to conform in our spirit, our attitude, and our beliefs, and our words, and the way that we conform our character and our actions should be according to what his will for us is. Whatever he wants us to do is what we should do. Whatever he wants us to think is what we should think. We should try to shape ourselves into the ideal in his mind, not in our mind. And the two are so often conflated, I believe, that people think, they say, I'm a believer, I believe in God. But they forget to realize how entrenched they are into worldly ways, into finding relief in worldly things like wealth, prosperity, riches, the things of this world, worldliness, the things of the flesh, the carnal things, basically. So it's very easy to fall into that because we've all been trained from birth to believe that this paradigm is somehow inevitable, that it's inevitable that you're born with this thing we call a cost of living, this tax that we owe just by virtue of the fact that we're here. And so there's a landholder already in place that we owe homage to and reverence. And I would like to suggest, and I strongly contend, that is where we all stumble. We all somehow think that the answer is just, look, you got to, look after number one, go out there, this is prudent, this is practical, this is pragmatic, this is logical, this proves you have common sense, and just go out there and make a lot of bread, man. Show that you're successful in the eyes of the world, as measured by the world. We forget that as believers. So often it's easy. The allure, the song of the siren, all these things are very compelling. And, we want to believe in them. We want to be able to hold on to something that makes sense in this world. And that's where we've got to step back and ask ourselves some serious questions. And again, the Bible is so good. It's such a treasure trove of wealth of information there. And the veracity of the Bible cannot be poo-pooed because, excuse me, because of all the history books, more people have probably died to make sure the veracity of the Bible was maintained than any other. If you look back at the Dark Ages, the medieval times, when the Bible was outlawed by the Roman Catholic Church, this is the kind of stuff the pontiff, the Pope did back in the day. So this is why the Seventh-day Adventists are big adherents to having the proper records, being the remnant church, having kept the records in place. to be able to tell the world that, well, look, the Pope is the Antichrist. And, well, don't get all hung up on that, because anti really initially just meant substitute. So understanding that the Pope is a substitute of Christ. It's not that he's necessarily opposed. That's, for the individual to decide, because there's been many popes, right? There's been many antichrists. But if there's any figurehead in the world that is supposed to represent Jesus, I think everyone would have to agree that's supposed to be the Pope in the Christian world, right? But that's not true at all. If you look at the Protestant or Reformist movement, and you see that actually there was this huge breakaway, and that people wanted to be free from that. There's just this never-ending yearning. If people are enslaved by any man or any entity, whether it be a fascist government or private individuals, just the kings and lords of the day, we always seek to be free. It's an instinct. We can't help it. We're compelled to want to be free. So that's where the Protestant movement came in, and we broke free from the Catholic Church and these draconian rules. But yeah, a lot of people died, from what I have read in history, because of this. Because the Bible was outlawed. If you were caught with the Bible, you could get strangled, whatever. Whatever the Pope's henchmen decided to do to you, they could do it to you. So that's basically, what it comes down to here, is understanding that you can rely on the Bible. And so, I know the New Testament, of course, I think is the best. Many say, well, if you haven't read the Bible, start with the book of John. Okay, I would agree. Start with one of the, the disciples, the writings of the disciples, the accounts of the disciples. And John, of course, many think is a great one, where it explains, in John 3:16, the most famous passage, that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever should believe in him should never perish but have everlasting life. And I think it's important to clarify, that certainly Jesus wasn't talking about the world in the sense that he loved the things of the world so much. No, he loved the people that were in the world, because we are told very clearly that we are to be in this world, because we can't help that. That's, we're here, but not of the world. So in other words, we're fighting against the establishment, against the established system, the status quo. We're struggling to be free from these illegitimate authorities that have taken over all of our lives. So, having said that, I would like to point to a couple of passages in the Bible, where we're told to pray without ceasing. To understand our need of God is palpable. We should want it to be palpable. We should understand we're not reliant on any man for our survival. It's God that gave us the wherewithal. God put the fish in the sea. God put the fruit on the trees, okay? It's all God. God provided all of our needs. He gave us the brain in our head to tell us, look, you got to take care of your needs to survive. You need shelter and warmth out of the elements. You need to eat. You need to drink, okay? So it's God that provides those things for us. It's not a man. So fundamentally, we all have to understand that. Because I listen to people that I admire and respect very much on the Alex Jones show, and guys like John Rappaport, but I hear him say this, about the socialists, and I agree that, socialism is bad because, it just creates animosity. It doesn't work. It's like, hunters going after game of one type. Well, let's go get the lions and tigers, steal from the rich. I mean, not the semi-rich, okay? It's, you're going to go after the kingpins. I mean, wouldn't that just be logical? Why would you pick on your next door neighbor, okay, for socialism? Steal from your next door neighbor to give to you or somebody else? I mean, no, that doesn't make sense, and it doesn't work. So socialism in that sense is wrong. It doesn't work. So I don't agree with it. But capitalism has its drawbacks too, and many socialists will point to crony capitalism and say, well, look at that. That's capitalism, and look what it's done. It's just driving up my cost of living. Where does it end? I mean, and they'd be right, but it's not true capitalism. And if they're truly a good socialist and really believe what they're saying, then that's not good socialism, what you believe. If you're, you don't go after one kind of prey and then settle for this other one, okay, because it's easier to get. No. You got to say, no, I demand the freaking Rothschilds pay the bill for all of us because they're hoarding all the bread, man. I mean, let's just be logical. Let's be reasonable here. You understand what I'm saying? So, so important to understand basic economic principles in order to extricate ourselves from this mess. We have to confront this thing at the root causal, area, and focus on the money printing class, on the people that have wrecked up the joint on purpose, that thrive on chaos and crises, problems of every sort, okay? We have to face reality, folks. And the reality is that the vast majority of jobs people are doing in society revolve around problems, okay? And those jobs, it's imperative that the problems be maintained in order for these people to be relevant, for them to have job security. Do you understand? And of all the factors that are important to maintain, it is poverty. This is what gives the beast this is the food. It's got to be a growing poverty, growing wealth disparity. Do you understand? So it's just, it's strangling humanity. This is genocide happening right under our noses, and many people just don't seem to understand it. They don't see it. It's the forest for the trees thing. They think, oh, it can't be. You're being overly cynical, and, come on, let's not be so radical. I say, no, man, it's that fouled up, man. Read your Bible. Read the teachings of Jesus. He spelled it out, okay? We don't get it. We just don't understand just how far off track we have become. And until we do, we're going to flounder. And it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And people are dying. They're becoming hopeless. I think it was last week I mentioned that there's a property owner here in Chico, California, and he's letting the homeless live on his land, and the guy is being fined by the city to the tune of almost $20,000. That's persecution of the homeless without telling them where they can go. No assistance in understanding this problem is costing society a lot. Okay, people get desperate and they do criminal things. At least they get 3 hots and a cot in jail at a cost of $50,000 a year to the taxpayers. So these poor homeless people aren't hurting anybody. They don't want to be criminals. They would rather go and just crawl under a bridge and die, okay, than to be a burden on society. Besides that, the society's taxed out, right? I mean, isn't it Section 8's job? Don't we have housing authorities everywhere in the country? And it's supposed to be their job to fix this thing, to house the people that can't afford to house themselves? Are they doing it, though? Why are so many people falling through the cracks? We need to ask these problems. We have to say, look, who caused the problem? The government validated the problem. The government legitimized the problem back in 2008. Okay, instead of it being between the lender and the borrower, okay, which it should have been. That's their problem, man. Let them deal with it. That guy, he borrowed too much, and that guy lent too much. No, it fell on the people. So they privatized the profits by being bailed out, and they socialized the debt. Now the government's the mortgage company. It's become fascist. Okay, they're the arm breakers and the leg breakers. They're the ones that are validating the genocide happening out on the streets. Oh, well, our budget is broken. Section 8 doesn't have any more money. The housing authority is broke. So, now I guess, this is it, man. I mean, it's bad. It's depression level. We don't know what to do. And so they get roused in the middle of the night. You can't live here. You can't do this. You can't do that. So what's your option? Just take me to jail then already. I mean, really, for crying out loud, you've got to be able to have a right to exist on the freaking planet. These are often native sons and daughters, and a lot of them veterans, being told they got to stay out in the cold and die because there's no help for them, even though the government's one that legitimized and validated this scam, this scheme by the money printing class to cause this vast wealth disparity and this exploding poverty so that they have crime, they have jobs in the criminal industrial complex, so they have, they can start plenty of dubious war, so that they can, have plenty of debt that they can impose on people. 25% of Americans, by the way, work in the debt industrial complex alone. Think about the criminal industrial complex, the poverty industrial complex with all the social welfare people out there. Am I making sense? Is it logical what I'm saying? Is it reasonable? If so, then consider it. And let's spread this, man. Let's just get it out there. And just say, let's confront this thing, but let's go to the source. Let's go to the causers, the money printing class, and these top politicians that are rubber stamping and validating everything they do.